Welcome to Winds of Change. We have an exciting episode for you today. We will be discussing strategy through the lens of the art of war with Dr. Terry Power, Wharton Fellow, member of Oxford Roundtable, professor at Royal Roads University in strategic international settings, and compassion through the eyes of Dana Beal, master in education and author of The Tragedy in the Workplace. It seems that in today's world, strategy plays such a crucial role in how we conduct ourselves in relationships as well as in business. And with that, over to you, Dr. Power. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jeevy. It's nice to be here. And it's always nice to see a Royal Roads alumni doing so well. So congratulations from all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Power, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into the line of work of strategy?
Well, kind of an eclectic background. I have a law degree as well, as you know, and 23 years in the military, and I've been teaching now for about 14 years, and a great number of years in private practice as a consultant. And so with that sort of background, it seemed like a natural fit at my age as I approached 70 to be doing these sort of things. Teaching and strategy is my passion.
Okay. Much like my passion, I guess, and if you come from a place of passion, as you know, you have a genuine interest in your topic.
Well, as Dizzy Gillespie said, if you can't feel it, you can't play it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us, Dr. Power, what is strategy?
Well, it's not a new concept from, and I guess later on today we'll be talking about, strategy comes from the Greeks about 500 years before Christ. It was a military term and has been used in that context up to about the time of the early 60s, when Kennedy took over as president in America. And at that time, the concept of strategic thinking and strategy moved from the military over into the private and public sectors and became the frequency term that we use today in strategic thinking and strategic plans and that sort of modeling. It's something we do every day. I mean, just crossing the street, every one of us has a strategy on how we get across the street. It's that critical thinking, that reflective thought on how do I get across the street. Well, we do it without thinking. We look left, we look right, we take a look at our ecosystem, our environment, before we step out off the curb. But you have undertaken that strategic process in just getting across the street. So all of us do it. It's just understanding what we're doing, reflective thought, and thinking about what we're going to be doing and crafting and putting on paper to make that happen.
Okay, so what I hear is that strategy, you know what you're going to do, and strategy is the process of how to get there.
Right, it's a logical thinking process on how we're going to. So strategy, in fact, is how are we going to get there? In today's world, it's all about competitiveness and globalization, and you very much need a plan in order to get across the street in the most efficient and effective way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So why strategize? Why do we need a strategy?
Well, I guess it was, I'm trying to think, Lewis Carroll in Alice in Wonderland. You might recall that little quote, little quip one day when Cheshire Cat's setting up a tree and Alice is down below, and after an exchange of words back and forth, Alice is asked by the cat, well, where do you want to go? And she says, well, I don't really know. And the cat responds, well, then I guess it doesn't really matter. You'll eventually get to wherever that is. And so today, in a global world, in a global setting where resources are scarce, you have to do more with less, where the competition, as we say, is global, the sense of the quickening, you just haven't got the luxury any longer to make mistakes, because as you make mistakes, as we saw in the opening, I guess we'll see shortly, won't we, a little quip about an antelope, if we don't have a plan, then our competitors are going to eat us. And today we have, in fact, watch this quip for a minute.
Okay.
Humorous, but nevertheless a lesson. The moral in the story is, for small business owners out there and mid-sized businesses, that you need that plan. You just can't run willy-nilly headlong without knowing where you're going, or else you're lined up at the foot of the competitors. And that's the story.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Sounds very
fun,
good.
isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So here we now I understand strategy. I understand it from the business perspective. Now, what about in our personal lives? Like I find even within my relationships, whether it's with a cousin, an uncle, or even a parent, I know that when I'm trying to get something and I have a goal in mind, I often sit back and think, okay, how am I going to get them to do this? So what is the connection between strategy and our personal lives?
Well, I guess on many different levels, there's connections. I mean, the aspect of strategy is very much about values, crafting strategies that align with your values, both your business values and your personal values. Indeed, a good exercise for you, GV, and for our audience today is I would encourage them to take a piece of paper and take a moment and write the 6 important values to them. What today do you hold a value? Let me put the question to you. What is valuable to you today? What is one of your values, one of your core values?
I would probably say sharing my learning.
Sharing, and probably family, and things like this you'll put down saying your values. Then I would ask you to turn the paper over for a minute and ask you in the last month, what have you done in the last month? And try to look for that alignment between what you're actually doing in life with those core values that are important to you.
Okay.
And so it's very important when we craft our strategies that we reflect and always align our personal values with what we're doing in our strategies and trying to meet those goals. And all too often, we don't do this. We get out of alignment. And I credit that sort of thought. It was a novel thought by Peter Thomas in his new book. I'm sorry, the name of the book escapes me, but it's just currently one of the best sellers in Canada. And it's a wonderful little read.
All right. So now I know that you have a lens of the art of war on strategy, so Sun Tzu's Art of War. And later we'll be getting to some of the quotes and talking about them. But just to get started, what does that mean? What does the art of war have to do with strategy?
Well, as I said earlier, the strategy has been a military term for a long period of time. And Sun Tzu may be mythical, may be real, but from 2,500 years before Christ, the teaching of warfare became an art in China. And of course, we know China was a Middle Kingdom. It was the center of the universe back in those days. And indeed, it may be reemerging today as the center. The Middle Kingdom is reemerging again. And so they set out a number of military precepts and concepts and notions that have great application in business today. We just have to reflect upon them a few minutes. And we will later today look at some of these and draw how they actually migrate over to business. And of course, the danger here might well be, and I guess it depends on your personal lens, do you see the world through the lens of Plato, collectivism, one for all, those sort of skill sets, or are you the other end of the continuum, sort of the right wing, Attila the Hun, John Stuart Mills, David Ricardo, those sort of, Adam Smith, those sort of views, the individual, less taxes, government, get out of the way. And all of us are somewhere on that continuum. And so the business quotes, the Sun Tzu quotes that we do today, it's going to depend on that lens as you view these quotes as to what interpretation you'll put on them. So I look forward to your other guests coming in and discussing more from the softer side of the house.
Absolutely.
Good.
So, Dr. Power, is there a right or wrong to that continuum?
Never right or wrong. We all have a place inside of it. What's important to us is that today we must adopt new mental models. We can't continue doing things the way we used to do things. The whole world has shifted. Neuroscience tells us 80% of the time when we make our decisions, we make them exactly the same as we made the decision yesterday. I mean, I'm holding my coffee cup here in my right hand. Your coffee cup is there. Could I ask you, why is your coffee cup there and not there? Can you tell me?
Probably because this is comfortable and
if that's the reason, then you've thought it through, then that mental model still works.
Yes.
Or is it simply the mental model, that's where you had it in the last interview,
yes.
And without thinking, you just put it back there again.
Yes.
It may be a better fit to have it down here. And so that's very much what we have to do in strategy and strategic thinking, is that the adoption of new mental models is very much part of, if business is going to survive, they have to be prepared to see the world through these new lenses, whether they be Plato or Aristotle, just understand the rose-tinted glasses that we look through in making those decisions.
Okay, so further to that, or to dovetail into that conversation, I'd like to clarify an assumption that does strategy change on a regular basis, either in business, probably more so in business than your personal life, but do you have to have a new strategy all the time?
Increasingly, I mean, there's so much to that. I could teach a whole course on that. So let me just